Jericho wins, lessens the champion's chances of keeping the title.
And I know I can beat Hardy.
Hard risk. Hardy, get ready to take a chance.
When you're a WWE superstar, you have to be switched on for the entire duration of the match. One bad move could result in a wrestler injuring themselves or, more commonly, their opponent. So of course it's important for a wrestler to keep an eye on everything that is happening in the ring to avoid injury or even at times death. After all it takes is one simple mistake for injury to occur. Sometimes simply adapting to the situation on the fly can prevent serious injury occurring in the match. Now, whilst we don't have an exhaustive list, we did find 10 more times that WWE wrestlers managed to save each other from injury or even death in the ring. Now, some you might not find on this list we already covered in a previous video, so be sure to check that out before you watch this. But be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and also follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 1. Randy Orton smoothly moves the WWE title belt out of the way. When Jinder Mahal pinned Randy Orton to win the WWE title at Backlash 2017, fans were shocked and surprised that a guy who had just been a jobber for his entire WWE run was now the top champion in the company. It was the responsibility of Orton to get Mahal over and to ensure the audience took Mahal seriously. This was an extremely tough task for Orton, as the matches with Mahal were met with mixed to negative reviews, and Mahal never really seemed like a credible threat. What the feud did achieve, however, was express how good of a performer Orton was and how he was one of the most reliable, smartest and safest workers of all time. These traits were seen during a segment on the April 25th, 2017 edition of SmackDown. As during the segment, Orton was attacked by Mahal and the Singh brothers. Orton was about to take Mahal's finishing move out of the Khalas, but just momentarily before he managed to execute the finisher, Orton noticed that he was going to land awkwardly on the WWE title belt, so he quickly kicked the belt away, meaning he nor Mahal would land in an awkward position on the belt and potentially be seriously hurt. This is kind of a reminder of when the Undertaker moved a chair out the way so that the Big Show or Kurt Angle wouldn't sustain injury, just like we mentioned in our previous video.
Look, the intensity in the eyes! Oh no!
Number 2. Edge throws out AJ Styles. Edge's return at the 2020 Royal Rumble marked one of the greatest returns in pro wrestling history. However, Edge's return didn't go too well for a former WWE champion. Upon entering the Rumble match, Edge hit a spear on almost everyone in the ring. One of those spears was delivered to AJ Styles. However, AJ oversold the move, over-rotating and dislocating his shoulder in the process. AJ immediately went to the corner, and after a brief chat with Edge threw him out of the Rumble match way before he was initially planned to be eliminated. Edge and AJ communicating in this way allowed AJ to prevent further injury, which in a match such as the Royal Rumble would have been extremely likely, as everything is going on. Now, AJ decided to comment on the injury so that it was clear to fans that Edge did absolutely nothing wrong. He stated, "Just so everything is clear, Edge did nothing, absolutely 100% nothing wrong. His move, his spear, everything was perfect the way he did it. If there is any blame to put on anybody about what I'm dealing with my shoulder, it's me, 100% me." Number 3. Baron Corbin saves Dolph Ziggler. Baron Corbin is one of the more polarizing wrestlers of the modern era, with fans either loving him or hating him. However, Corbin is actually one of the safest and smartest workers in the entire company, and there's no better evidence of this than the Money in the Bank 2016 pay-per-view. At this point, Corbin had only been on the main roster for around 3 months, so to act in the following manner was an act of a veteran WWE superstar, not someone who had only just recently jumped to the main roster. During a match with Dolph Ziggler, Ziggler attempted to run and jump off the steel steps onto Corbin. Unfortunately, Ziggler slipped, and it looked as if he was going to fall flat on his face. Luckily, Corbin caught the former world champion and turned it into a deep 6. So what could have been a painful injury turned into a great spot, which is a credit to the quick thinking of Corbin. Number 4. Wade Barrett saves Dolph Ziggler. Sometimes in wrestling, you have to sacrifice your body in order to save a fellow wrestler from serious injury. And this was seen during a Battle Royal main event on Raw during the build to WrestleMania 28. The injury took place during a spot where Wade Barrett was outside of the ring and the Big Show threw Dolph Ziggler out to Barrett. However, the Big Show threw Ziggler far too hard and it looked like Ziggler was about to smash off the announce table. Fortunately, Barrett managed to catch Ziggler, however, Barrett caught Ziggler at a weird angle which resulted in an injury. During the impact, Barrett dislocated his left elbow and was in excruciating pain. As a result, he would miss almost 8 months of television time due to the injury, but the injury to Ziggler if Barrett didn't catch him could have been a lot worse. Number 5. The Undertaker adjusts the last ride. The Undertaker is well established as one of the greatest of all time, and one of the reasons for this accolade is the fact that he is incredibly professional and has a reputation for being one of the safest wrestlers in the business. This reputation was seen in a match on Raw in 2001 which featured The Undertaker teaming up with Kane to face the duo of Booker T and Test. During the match, The Undertaker was about to deliver his trademark last ride finishing move to Test, but the problem was that this was the first time The Undertaker had delivered the move on someone undersized a Test. This meant that mid-move it looked like Test was going to be dropped on his head and suffer a devastating injury as it was simply far too heavy. But Taker smartly drifted back into the ropes which allowed both Taker and Test to get their balance and the move was then executed perfectly. Number 6. Shayna saves Sasha's arm. Now the next entry on our list comes from a recent edition of Monday Night Raw. As in a match between Shayna Baszler and Sasha Banks, the Catch Wrestling Twitter account smartly pointed out how Shayna stopped Sasha from breaking her arm during a match. During a submission move, Sasha's thumb was up, meaning her elbow was prone to hypertension. Shayna simply rotated Sasha's thumb palm down, changing the angle of the elbow, making the next spot, which was a basic roll to the rope, safe and without serious injury. The spot showed fans and WWE themselves just how valuable Shayna is as a talent. She has an MMA background, so she clearly has the ability to hurt anyone she chooses, but she also knows how to keep talent safe at all times, especially during intricate submission holds. Number 7. Paige protects AJ Lee at SummerSlam 2014. AJ Lee went into a Divas title match at SummerSlam with Paige with a serious injury to her back. The injury meant that AJ couldn't take a simple bump in the match, a near impossible task, as to have a passable match without taking a simple bump is pretty much impossible. Paige stated, "We actually got through the whole match without her taking one bump, which is wonderful. I said, we're going to protect you at all costs." AJ later took to Twitter to offer some background to the injury and how professional Paige was in keeping her safe. She stated, "I herniated 3 discs in my cervical spine the week before this match. Couldn't turn my head or feel my hands. Doctor asked me if I had been in a car crash. Paige protected me fiercely like a goddamn superhero. I think even helped dress me, so I heart her forever." Number 8. Jericho holds the ladder for Kane. The 4th ever TLC match occurred on a random episode of Raw in 2002 and featured Kane defending the tag titles by himself against 3 different tag teams. TLC matches require constant communication to keep every wrestler safe at all times, and when a TLC match involves a monster like Kane, it can be very easy for something to go wrong. As during the closing moments of the match, Chris Jericho would be chokeslammed from the top of the ladder by Kane. Kane then tried to ascend to the top of the ladder, but at the top, the ladder was shaking from the weight of Kane and it looked as if he was gonna fall. Jericho, however, smartly shifted his body so he could hold the ladder in place with his feet, making sure Kane was safe and he could secure the tag titles without the risk of the ladder falling.
He's got it! He's done it! My God, he's done it!
Number 9. Asuka kicks Sasha Banks. Asuka and Sasha Banks had one of the best matches of the year during the post-Royal Rumble edition of Raw in 2018. One of the more infamous moments in the match involved Sasha Banks performing a dive onto the outside on Asuka, but Sasha's knees got caught in the ropes and it looked like she was about to land neck first on the outside of the ring. But thanks to some quick thinking from Asuka, it resulted in Sasha making contact with Asuka's leg, which cushioned the inevitable fall and saved Sasha from being seriously hurt. The match continued shortly after with Asuka being victorious and Sasha was somehow completely fine following the match thanks to the quick thinking from Asuka. WWE Hall of Famer Mick Foley took to Twitter following the match to urge Sasha not to use the move again and stated, "I really don't want to see Sasha try that dive again. Too many close calls. Time to take that item off the menu." And number 10, Becky Lynch protects KAIRI SANE. TLC 2019 was main evented by ASUKA and KAIRI SANE vs Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch in a TLC match for the women's tag titles. This marked the first time that the women's tag titles had ever main evented a pay-per-view, and it was also the first time that the women's tag titles had been defended in a TLC match. But sadly, the match didn't go to plan as KAIRI SANE was concussed during it, which forced the match to alter direction rather quickly. Shortly after it was apparent that KAIRI was injured, Becky Lynch quickly improvised and rolled KAIRI under the ring so she could avoid the action and be treated by WWE's medical team. The quick thinking by Becky received widespread praise from WWE fans who believe that Becky showed why she is a true leader and is in the position she is in as the face of the WWE's women's division. Luckily, KAIRI would only miss a month of in-ring time, but the injury could have been incredibly serious if it wasn't for the quick thinking of Becky Lynch. But there you have it, guys. 10 more times WWE wrestlers managed to save their opponent from injury or even death. Are there any more we're missing out? Let us know in the comments down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook for exclusive lists, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.